Today, our world is changing more rapidly than at any point in history. I'm not only speaking of the technological, social, and economic changes that we've seen, but the very foundational moral principles of Western civilization have been overturned and perverted. And this isn't just happening in the secular world. The fundamental moral theology of Holy Mother Church is under attack. From the outright heretical teachings of the German bishops, the burning of Catholic churches and smashing of statues, the continued suppression of information regarding sexual scandals in the church, the canceling of devout traditional priests, and attacks on the extraordinary form of the Mass, to the kneeling of the Supreme Pontiff before a false goddess of fertility named the Pachamama, while his back was turned to the divine presence of our blessed Lord, body, blood, soul, and divinity in the Holy Eucharist, located in the tabernacle directly behind him. People say we're in the end times. Have we entered the end times? Well, do you believe the prophecy of Venerable Archbishop Fulton J. Sheen from over 50 years ago? Do you believe the words of Pope Paul VI in 1972 declaring the smoke of Satan had entered the Church of God? What about the writings of St. Pope Pius X? I'm going to share a section from one of those writings with you today. Pascendi Dominici Gregis de Monanistarum Doctrinis. Paragraph 2. Gravity of the situation. That we make no delay in this matter is rendered necessary, especially by the fact that the partisans of error are to be sought not only among the Church's open enemies, they lie hid, a thing to be deeply deplored and feared in her very bosom and heart, and are the more mischievous the less conspicuously they appear. We allude, venerable brethren, to many who belong to the Catholic laity, nay, and this is far more lamentable, to the ranks of the priesthood itself, who, feigning a love for the Church, lacking the firm protection of philosophy and theology, nay, more thoroughly imbued with the poisonous doctrines taught by the enemies of the Church and lost to all sense of modesty, vaunt themselves as reformers of the Church, and forming more boldly into the line of attack, assail all that is most sacred in the work of Christ, not sparing even the person of the divine Redeemer, whom with sacrilegious daring they reduce to a simple mere man. Though they express astonishment themselves, no one can justly be surprised that we number such men among the enemies of the Church, leaving out of consideration the internal disposition of soul, of which God alone is the judge. He is acquainted with their tenets, their manner of speech, their conduct. Nor indeed will he err in accounting them the most pernicious of all the adversaries of the Church. For as we have said, they put their designs for her ruin into operation not from without, but from within. Hence the danger is present almost in the very veins and heart of the Church, whose injury is more certain the more intimate their knowledge of her. Moreover, they lay the axe not to the branches and shoots, but to the very root, that is, to the faith and its deepest fires, and having struck at this root of immortality, they proceed to disseminate poison through the whole tree, so that there is no part of Catholic truth from which they hold their hand, none that they do not strive to corrupt. Further, none is more skillful, none more astute than they, in the employment of 1,000 noxious arts, for they double the parts of rationalist and Catholic, and this so craftily that they easily lead the unwary into error. And since audacity is their chief characteristic, there is no conclusion of any kind from which they shrink, or which they do not thrust forward with pertinacity and assurance. To this must be added the fact, which is indeed well calculated to deceive souls, that they lead a life of greatest activity, of assiduous and ardent application to every branch of learning, and that they possess as a rule a reputation for the strictest morality. Finally, and this almost destroys all hope of cure. Their very doctrines have given such a bent to their minds that they disdain all authority and brook no restraint, and relying upon a false conscience, they attempt to ascribe to a love of truth that which in reality is the result of pride and obstinacy. Once indeed, we had hopes of recalling them to a better sense, and to this end we first of all showed them kindness as our children. Then we treated them with severity, and at last we have had recourse, though with great reluctance, to public reproof. But you know, venerable brethren, how fruitless has been our action. They bowed their head for a moment, but it was soon uplifted more arrogantly than ever. If it were a matter which concerned them alone, we might perhaps have overlooked it. But the security of the Catholic name is at stake. Therefore, as to maintain it longer would be a crime, we must now break silence in order to expose before the whole church in their true colors those who have assumed this bad disguise. My friends, this encyclical was written in 1907. And so we come back to the question that we began with. Have we entered the end times? My friends, it's clear from the writings of modern prophets and saints, we entered the end times a long time ago. The question that we need to ask ourselves today is, how close are we to the end of the end? Don't put it off. Prepare yourselves. Fortify yourselves in prayer and fasting. Fortify your family. Build up the domestic church at home. Don't be caught without oil for your lamp. Prepare. We know not what comes tomorrow, but we know that Jesus told us to watch the signs of the times. Watch and prepare.